What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Ari Emanuel, CEO of Endeavor, defends UFC fighter pay and refuses to answer other questions. During a recent earnings call with investors this week, Ari Emanuel, the CEO of the UFC's parent company Endeavor, not only defended fighter pay, but also refused to talk further about the controversial subject that has been a hot topic for some time now. The call came just before Endeavor released the earnings results for Q4 of 2021 and also for the full year of 2021. Really quick, those numbers show that the UFC had its best financial year in its entire 28-year history, with all Endeavor sports properties growing by an impressive 16% for the entire year, all led by the UFC. Still, it's worth noting that, according to financial reports and records released through ongoing class action lawsuits against the UFC, the promotion pays about 16 to 20% of their revenue to their cage fighters, the people who risk their lives in the octagon fistfighting, choking each other, breaking each other's limbs. Compare this to other major American sports leagues like the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball, all of which pay around 50% of their revenue to their athletes. When this question was raised by a member of Lightshed Partners to Emanuel, he quickly shut the question down, and according to reports, he said this: "I'm not commenting on that. I think we've done very well as it relates to the pay for the fighters." Later in the call, Endeavor's chief financial officer, Jason Lublin, mentioned how the UFC's been able to increase their fighter pay by 600% since 2005. Still, Jake Paul took the opportunity to highlight the comments from the Endeavor CEO. As you know, Jake Paul has been a thorn in the side of the UFC, making a big ol' stink about fighter pay, healthcare, and benefits packages that the UFC offers its athletes. This is what Jake Paul tweeted in reference to the earnings call with investors. Live from the UFC call, Ari Emanuel asked about fighter comp and benefits driven by the attention Jake Paul is bringing to it by Lightshed. Ari refused to comment on the concern around percentage paid to UFC fighters versus other athletes in other leagues. Change is coming, y'all. What are your thoughts on Ari Emanuel's comments regarding fighter pay? And what do you think of Jake Paul's response? Paddy the Baddy believes he'll get another 3 or 4 unranked opponents. Paddy Pimblett had a spectacular UFC debut in September, putting away Luigi Vendramini in less than a minute with sound punches. The former Cage Warriors phenom is now gearing up to take on Kazula Vargas in this weekend's UFC London card, and he's very confident that he'll be able to put away the Mexican MMA fighter. While Pimblett believes he's destined for stardom, he also understands that the lightweight division is arguably the toughest division in the UFC, loaded with so many talented fighters who simply know how to do it all. With a 17-3 record, Pimblett will carry a ton of experience with him to the octagon this Saturday, but he is also content with taking it step by step along the way. Case in point, during the recent interview with BT Sports' Nick Pete, he was asked about his plans after the Vargas fight, and this is what the baddie had to say in response.
Lightweight's the most stacked division in the sport and the UFC. I know I'm going to end up fighting another 3 or 4 non-ranked fighters, and I'm going to have to get past them first. I'm taking everything one step at a time, but I'll be back at least twice this year. I'm not doing 2 fights this year.
Paddy was involved in an altercation in the lobby of the Fighters Hotel ahead of the UFC London card with Ilya Topuria over comments he had previously made about the Russo-Georgian War. Topuria is undefeated at 11-0, and both fight in the lightweight division now. Some are thinking that this could be a future matchup for both men if they get past their respective opponents this coming weekend. What do you make of Paddy the Baddy's comments? Dana White slams stupid fight between Kamaru Usman and Canelo Alvarez, says it makes no sense. Kamaru Usman has been sounding the alarm that he is 100% down to fight boxing champion Canelo Alvarez in the sweet science, and has gone so far as to call out the Mexican fighter. Even his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, says Usman would knock out Canelo and called him, along with all other boxers, cowards for never being willing to step into the cage to fight MMA, and instead have MMA fighters cross over to fight boxing instead. Usman doubled down on his challenge in a recent interview with MMA Junkie, saying that if the UFC allowed Conor McGregor to fight Floyd Mayweather, then surely an Usman-Canelo fight is possible. Canelo also kept open the possibility for this fight to happen when he was asked earlier this month about Usman's challenge. But the one man who believes this fight is a complete dud is also the one man whose blessing is 100% needed from Usman's side to make this fight a reality. UFC President Dana White. The UFC boss man is no stranger to boxing. The sweet science is his first love, and he's also brokered the deal that made the Mayweather-McGregor fight happen. But when asked in a recent interview with Sky Sports on his thoughts about a potential Usman vs. Canelo boxing fight, White didn't hold back. This is what he said.
Everything about it is horrible. Usman is not a boxer. Canelo is probably the best guy out there right now. It's just a stupid fight that makes no sense. I don't even know how many people would even be interested in seeing that.
White goes on to say that he doesn't even think that there are many people who would even want to see that fight, even if it does take place. He talks about the difference in skill set between the welterweight champion and the best pound-for-pound boxer on the planet. And comparing it to the Conor Floyd fight, White says that this fight had taken a life of its own, given how big both fighters had become, how much notoriety their names had, and how obvious it was that the public was clamoring for this fight. White took a shot, and it paid off handsomely, with Mayweather-McGregor selling more than 4 million pay-per-view buys. But Kamaru vs. Canelo, he says, no way. Do you agree with White that this is a stupid fight to make? Do you think we'll ever see another crossover boxing fight involving a UFC fighter and a pro boxing champion? Tell us in the comments. Fans versus the UFC in class action lawsuit over Fight Pass in California. Several Fight Pass customers in California are banding together to bring a class action lawsuit against Zuffa, the business entity that runs the UFC. Why? The suit alleges that Zuffa collects consumers' Facebook information and passes it on to an unrelated third party, including their Facebook ID and all consumer habits while using Fight Pass, like which videos are clicked, all without the consent of users and really without telling anyone. This is what the lawsuit alleges. Although consumers watching videos using the UFC Fight Pass intend to and reasonably expect that they are communicating with Zuffa, this code enables Facebook's computer network to collect and track information about the consumer's behavior on the site. Thus, when a consumer logs into the UFC Fight Pass and clicks on a video, Zuffa discloses to Facebook through the code the consumer's Facebook ID, the URL of the website hosting the video, which includes the name of the video the consumer requests or obtains, and the fact that the website viewed contains the video content simultaneously. The case brief goes on to say that the Facebook ID is used by Facebook to obtain the identity of the consumer and stores their information. The problem is that California law stipulates that consumers must at least be given notice that this is happening, as well as an option to refuse consent to this, which the suit stipulates Zuffa chose not to do. What do you make of this lawsuit? What are your initial thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments. Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this. See you next time.